Good morning. I'm going to show you a super quick workout. I'm going to take you through 2 full sets of it. It's one giant superset that I do, and we're going to hit biceps, we're going to hit triceps, we're going to hit shoulders, we're going to hit back, and we're going to hit legs. So the only thing we're not hitting is chest, and there would be absolutely no reason why you couldn't just lie down on the ground and get a chest fly or get a chest press and get push-ups with this superset so that you could get a full body workout in. So I'm going to start with myself in a split stance. So I want you to take a look at my footing so that you can understand what a split stance means to me. So that means that my feet are not going to be apart like this. My feet are going to be apart like this. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to be able to balance with my legs and my hips. I don't want to balance with my back as I'm doing movements. So ultimately, I'm going to stand in a split stance. And for biceps, what I'm going to do is a set of 10 hammer curls and a set of 10 dumbbell reverse curls. So I'll start with my elbows at my side here. So I don't want to have my shoulders forward as I go to start. I want to have my scapula contracted, and I want to be ready to start with my shoulders in this position so that I have appropriate posture as I go to start. So split stance with my feet for a hammer curl. I'm going to come up with my knuckles to my side, and I'm going to get 10 of these in. Not letting my elbows come out in front of me. If they start to come out in front of you, then you know that you're starting to use your shoulders and your traps to help you through the movement. So we're going to do 10 of those. Now I don't really take a rest, so then I go right into 10 of my dumbbell reverse curl. Still standing with that split stance. I'm going to do that same hammer curl with my elbows in the same spot, but I'm going to turn it at the top. So turn to the top, hammer curl, turn to the top. So come up like a hammer curl, turn to the top, just keep turning. You want to make sure that you're not tucking your chin, that you're just keeping your chin neutral with your spine, because if your chin is in line with your spine, then you're not going to try to activate your traps too much. Okay, now I don't take a whole lot of rest in between these, so I'm going to go right into my shoulder moves. And so I'm still going to take that split stance approach with my legs, and I'm going to come up, and my knuckles are going to be out at my side, so I'm not going to go like this. If I go like this with my hands, there's nothing wrong with that. But when you're like this with your hands, your elbows go more behind you. When you're like this with your hands, your elbows go more in front. See how that naturally happens? I'm not making that happen. That's just naturally happening. So when my elbows are in front, what's going to happen is on the way down, that resistance is basically going to be my lats and my rear delts helping me and my rhomboids. If my elbows are behind me, then my trap, that whole area is what's going to take over, and I don't need that. I'm already tight enough in my traps. So I'm going to do 10 with a split stance of those knuckle out shoulder presses coming straight up. I would not meet these in the middle. When you meet them in the middle, you almost provide a rest, but you also activate your trap. So don't come in here, just come straight up. Okay, now the second move that I'm going to do, just because there's plenty of shoulder moves that we could do, plenty of them, but just because I'm going to consider this a short on time workout, I'm going to do a chicken wing because I feel that the chicken wing will hit all 3 parts of my shoulder. So I'm going to make an L with my arms, palms are going to be up, same split stance with my feet, and I'm just going to open up. Shoulders back, chin is neutral, elbows staying close to the body the entire time. So the key with the chicken wing is making sure that the elbows don't get out here. So you're not doing this. So elbows should be touching the body the entire time that you're doing it. Okay, now for triceps. I'm going to do this with 2 dumbbells because of the weight of the dumbbells that I have, but you could do this with 1 dumbbell. So let me show you how you would do it with 1 dumbbell. You would just flat hand the dumbbell, bring it behind your head, and take it straight up. But I'm going to do it with 2. Split stance with your feet, arms up. I'm going to meet them in the middle, and I'm going to do 10 of these. Elbows stay in. Now, when you get to where you're doing this, make sure that you're not doing one of these things to where you're flaring out too much. You want to be able to keep those elbows in. Also, make sure that you don't get too excessive on the way down. Go to about right here on the way down. So about right here and then back up. Right here and then back up. You don't want to get too far with it, otherwise you may end up impinging here or you may end up impinging here. Now the other thing that I'm going to do for my triceps is a bent over kickback. So when you're doing any type of bent over movement, something that's super important that you need to understand is if you're rolling your shoulders forward on any bent over movement, you're going to end up activating your traps. And you're also going to end up activating your lower back. So if you're in a position to where you're not able to do that, you roll forward every time, then you really want to consider not doing bent over movements quite yet. You'd want to use a bench to have a bench on your chest, or just grab a band, put a band over a doorway and just do some extensions with that band instead of doing this, because you don't want to activate that low back and you don't want to overactivate your traps. So I'm going to do scapular contraction to where I'm feeling those shoulder blades, slight tilt to my hip, and now I'm going to have a slight bend in my knee. I'm going to bend at the waist, look down at the ground so that my chin stays in line with my spine. Elbows are going to come up, and I'm going to extend straight out. Elbows staying in the entire time. Don't let them flare. Now, when I come here, I want to make sure I feel that contraction on the tricep. So I'm not swinging it. I'm not just doing curls. I'm isolating. So I'm getting that full isolation every single time. And remember, shoulders back as if I'm finishing a row, bottom out, tilting the hips, then come up, then kick out. Okay? So that posture and that alignment is really going to make the difference in if you're going to receive it in the right muscle or not. Now that holds true for the next 2 exercises that we're going to do as well. We're going to do a bent over row and we're going to do a bent over fly. So you really have to make sure that you're able to hold the posture. If you were not able to hold the posture on the bent over row, you could easily brace yourself on something and just do good posture and just do single arm rows. But I'm just going to do these flat back, bent over, and do them together. And this would be our back exercise. So scapular contraction, shoulders back, bent at the waist, and I'm just going to keep the elbows in and row up. Keeping my chin in line with my spine the entire time. Now, as I start to get tired, I can't lose it. Okay, if I lose it and my shoulders start to come forward like that, I'm going to start taking from the wrong spot. I'm going to use my low back, I'm going to end up hurting my neck. It's really important that you're paying attention to that the entire time. Then the second move I'm going to do for my back is a bent over fly. So if you are in a position where you're still struggling with doing things bent over, what I would do is go back to that chicken wing move, and instead of having palms up, I would have your knuckles out, and I would do the chicken wings with your knuckles out instead of with your palms up, so that you would still get rear delt activation, but you would get rear delt activation without having to be bent over. So for that bent over fly, I'm going to work on activating the rear delt. I'm going to get in that same exact position to where shoulders are going to be back, chest is going to be out, chin is going to stay in line with the spine. I'm going to bend at the waist, and I'm going to fly it up. Now, if you get to a position to where you feel like you start to roll, come up, reset yourself. You'd be better off to take a 3-second break, then go back down and get 3 better reps so that you don't end up forcing yourself to come from the wrong position. Always important. Don't force 3 more reps with bad form. There's no advantage to it. There's literally no gain. So don't do that. Just stop what you're doing, come up, breathe, reset, get yourself back down, get into that position so that you actually activate the correct muscle for the movement. Now the last 2 movements that we're going to do are going to be for legs, and we're going to do a squat, and then we're going to do a deadlift. So we'll get quads and glutes, but then we'll also get hamstrings in. So for the squat, I'm going to take my weight, hold it up to my chest instead of having it down at my side. Because what this allows me to do is to be able to really keep my shoulders back. And so it's important to me that I don't run the risk of throwing those shoulders forward, because as soon as I throw those shoulders forward, I'm going to tilt my hips under, and I'm going to end up using that low back on the squat, and I really want to make sure that I don't do that. So I'm going to bring my toes slightly pointed outward, and I'm going to make sure that I am just a little bit outside of hip width. There's no width that's necessarily wrong, because you could do a narrow stance squat to activate a different part. But for today, I'm very intentionally doing it this way. So shoulders back, chest out, tilting my bottom, sitting back into my hips, really trying to keep my shoulders back the entire time so that my back isn't breaking forward as I go to come down. You want to limit that and keep everything back in your bottom. That's why squats are so good for the glutes if they're done correctly, because you should be activating your glutes every time you do them. But a lot of people are drawing themselves too forward, and they're using their back and they're using their knees on the movement because of how forward they're coming. So you've got to pay attention to, how's my alignment, how are my shoulders, am I tilting my hips, and then am I sitting, pushing back, and sitting into my hip when I do that movement. Now the final move I'm going to do is a deadlift. And what I can tell you about that is, if you do not have proper alignment, if your shoulders are not in proper alignment, you will not do a deadlift correctly. So it is going to be very important to maybe hold off on doing these if you don't feel like you have proper posture or proper alignment, because you easily can hurt your low back on doing a deadlift without the proper form or without the proper alignment. So if you struggle on those bent over rows or those bent over flies, then you probably need to hold off on doing this deadlift until you can work with someone to teach you how to get more mobility and to teach you how to get more flexibility so that you can actually engage properly. So for the deadlift, I'm going to keep my feet hip width, okay? Shoulders back, chest out, and I'm going to come down, act like I'm touching my toes, but not quite go that far. My knees will be slightly bent and engaged the entire time, and my chin will stay in line with my spine the entire time. Staying close to the body, acting like I'm touching my toes, like a pendulum. Okay? Should feel activation and stretch in the hamstrings as well as in the glute. Reminder of how I'm keeping my chin. It's staying neutral with my spine so that I'm not activating my neck or troubling my traps while doing it. Shoulders back the entire time. This is a great way to improve the glute hamstring tie-in. It's a great way to tighten and tone the hamstrings. It's a great way to tighten your glutes. I hope this helps. This is a super easy workout. This is something I literally do in my kitchen while I'm prepping food. It's something that I do in my bathroom while I'm getting ready in the morning. I just decided to do it out here by the pool because it's a beautiful morning in Florida, and I thought you guys would enjoy the background. I pray this helps you. I pray you have a healthy day. God bless you.